What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video today. I'll be talking about Shane Van Gisbergen and how I think he'll perform in 2024. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Shane Van Gisbergen in 2024 is going to be racing full-time in NASCAR. He'll run full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, driving the number 97 car for Colleague Racing, and will also run 7 NASCAR Cup Series races with Trackhouse Racing, most likely either in the number 91 Project 91 entry or most likely in the number 97 car, the same number that he's going to run in the Xfinity Series. In addition to that, he'll be running in the ARCA opener at Daytona with Pinnacle Racing Group, most likely in the number 28C. He has to run that ARCA race because, yes, he did the testing, but he has to do the ARCA race to be able to be eligible to run the Xfinity Series opener at Daytona National Speedway. In addition to that, he's expected to have potentially a couple sponsors throughout 2024. He is going to have WeatherTech as a sponsor for many races in Xfinity, and also potentially could have Red Bull as either an entitlement sponsor throughout the season or as a main sponsor that we could see on his car throughout 2024. There is a lot of hype around Shane Van Gisbergen going into the season because Shane Van Gisbergen is one of the greatest supercar drivers to ever live in the world. He won 81 supercar races and is a 3-time champion of the Supercar Series, with his most recent championship coming just 2 years ago in 2022. And he also had made 2 starts last year in the NASCAR Cup Series with Trackhouse Racing, the Project 91 car. Remember, he had that really impressive win at the Chicago Street Course with Project 91, holding off hard-charging Justin Haley and Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch as well. And also in his second race, ended up finishing in the top 10, becoming the first driver since 1978 when Terry Labonte finished in the top 10 his first 2 starts. He became the first person to do that since Terry Labonte all the way back in 1978. So it's been nearly 50 years since the last time that happened. That's why there is a lot of hype. And the ultimate goal for Shane Van Gisbergen is to get a lot of experience in the lower ranks and also in the Cup Series as well, especially on ovals, because he has said this publicly many, many times that he wants to eventually go full-time NASCAR Cup Series racing next year in 2025. And he needs to perform very, very well on ovals in order to have a really good chance and opportunity. Let's first begin with the NASCAR Cup Series, because this is going to be a little bit quicker. Again, while the number, like I said, has not been officially announced, it is expected that SVG more than likely will be driving the number 97 car for those 7 select races. He's going to run at Las Vegas. I believe he's going to run both Talladega races, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to run the Coca-Cola 600. He's also going to run, I believe, at COTA, and also going to run the Chicago Street Course as well. Beginning with the road courses, I think he'll finish in the top 10 in all those road course races that he's going to run, especially at COTA. He's got a lot of experience also from the V8 Supercars there as well, but I think he also ran some select other races like Trans Am Race and other things at that. I think he was with that Kyle Busch program about a year or 2 ago. And then, of course, I think that he's going to be the favorite to win the Chicago Street Course, and he's already my early pick to win that race. I think he's got a really good chance and opportunity, despite now the Cup Series drivers having more experience now going back to that track. I think that he will do very good and win the Chicago Street Course. As for when it comes to the other races, the oval races, I think that's going to be a little more tricky. He did make an oval start in the Truck Series last year at IRP, and I believe actually finished in the top 20, ran top 25 a majority of the night, which is pretty good, especially with the lack of practice that the lower series have, and especially Cup as well. That was pretty impressive to watch with Nice Motorsports. I think that SVG will struggle a little more on that than the road courses, but I think by the end of the year, especially in the last couple starts, I think he's going to get it together. We know how strong Trackhouse is at the mile and a half. Their mile and a half program and their oval program has been really, really good. I think Shane Van Gisbergen will be pretty solid and really strong in the Cup Series and probably be a contender in many races. Now let's go ahead and transition over to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, because I've already mentioned this, but Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be driving full-time with Colleague Racing in the number 97 car with Colleague Racing. He will be teammates with AJ Allmendinger, who's going to be in the 16 car. He'll also be teammates with Josh Williams, who'll be in the 11. And the number 10 car is going to be run part-time this season. Daniel Dye is going to run 10 races in that number 10 car. I would also imagine potentially Kyle Busch is going to make some select starts in that 10 car, and maybe a couple other drivers like Kyle Larson perhaps will get a chance and an opportunity to drive behind the wheel. Unlike the Cup program for Kaulig Racing, the NASCAR Xfinity program for Kaulig is way better, but they have struggled a little more in the last year or two than they did in previous seasons. But I think one thing that really will help Shane Van Gisbergen a lot is having two really solid teammates in Josh Williams and AJ Allmendinger, because AJ Allmendinger is amazing and one of the greatest Xfinity Series drivers we have ever seen in the history of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So I think that really is going to help Shane Van Gisbergen in a massive, massive way. And another big thing that will benefit Shane Van Gisbergen is to be working with Bruce Schlicker, who worked with AJ Allmendinger for many, many years. So I think that is going to be a huge benefit this season to SVG. Now let's talk about Xfinity. I think the road course is where he's going to be really strong, kind of like the Cup Series. I think he's going to be really dominant at those types of tracks. And I think for most of the road course races this year, I think there's going to be three names you're going to have to watch out for: AJ Allmendinger, Sam Mayer, and absolutely you're going to have to watch for Shane Van Gisbergen. I think that is where he's going to win races this year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I think he'll win both of them because I have him getting a couple wins in 2024 in Xfinity, at least maybe 2 to 3 wins by the end of the year. As for the ovals, I think he'll struggle at the start of the season. Not like struggle, but I think he's going to be running outside the top 10 and in top 15, at least at the start of the year on the ovals. But as the year progresses, I expect him to get a lot better, and I think that he is going to become a contender for top 5s and top 10s on a consistent basis near the end of the season. And I also think by the end of the year, he'll be contending for wins. I think wouldn't be even surprised or shocked by the end of the year, after all the oval experience he has had, I think he will be a contender. He's someone who I think gets up to speed very, very quickly. He got up to speed very, very quickly at the Chicago Street Course, able to win that, and then came back a couple weeks later and nearly won the Indy Road Course and ran top 10 pretty much all day long. So I think by the end of the year, he will be a solid contender. Now, as for expectations for the championship this year in the series, I have to be realistic. I don't think Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be a championship threat, at least at the start of the year. I think he's going to win a couple races, but realistically, I don't think he makes the championship 4. I think for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, I think Shane Van Gisbergen will be able to at least make it to the round of 8 because, like I said, I think he'll get a couple victories. I think he'll run around a majority of the year instead of top 8 to 10 in the standings. But again, I think the round of 8 is probably where he's going to finish. I just don't see him going to the championship 4. The Xfinity Series is very, very stacked going into this season, especially with the teammates. I think AJ will be the best former at Kaulig Racing this year. But I think SVG won't be extremely far behind, especially at the end of the year. I think SVG will be a contender, and I think, like I said, he'll get to the round of 8 at least. And like I said, I think that experience that he'll get, I think he's going to progress. I think he's going to get better, and I think he's going to get stronger. So for the Cup Series, like I've already mentioned, I think Shane Van Gisbergen will absolutely do a very, very good job and will get a couple top 10s, and I think maybe even a top 5 in a winning Cup. And I think for the Xfinity Series, I think he is going to go out there and get a couple wins in Xfinity by the end of the year, and I think he's going to be one of the outside championship contenders. Not a massive championship threat at contender start of the season, but by the end of the year, I do expect that Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be solid and very, very strong. And again, I think there's a lot of hype for him, and probably more hype than anybody else. And if he does well enough, there's a really good chance and possibility that if he wins a lot of races and starts winning races, especially on ovals, there's a very strong chance and possibility that Shane Van Gisbergen, now even if he doesn't do absolutely amazing, I still think there's a really strong chance that because of sponsorship he brings and how good of a driver he is, there is a very good chance and possibility that Shane Van Gisbergen will in fact be full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2025. I think Justin Marks is going to find whatever way and do whatever it takes to try to make sure Shane Van Gisbergen does in fact get to the Cup Series full-time in 2025. So yes, I think that Shane Van Gisbergen will do pretty well, and I think that SVG is going to at some point get announced here, probably in the middle of the year or later in the year. If he does well enough, I think Shane Van Gisbergen will in fact get announced that he will be joining the NASCAR Cup Series full-time with Trackhouse Racing in the year 2025. That's a prediction I have early. I think he'll be full-time Cup racing in 2025. I think Trackhouse really likes him. They want to work with him again. I'm going to go with him going full-time with this team, though, in 2025. So that is going to be for today's special video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links go below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. How do you think Shane Van Gisbergen is going to perform in 2024? And do you think if he does well enough, do you think he'll be going full-time cup racing in 2025? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Leave me your expectations for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. Also on the channel coming up, we've got a news video dropping tomorrow for Wednesday. Thursday, I've got other videos dropping. I've got a silly season video dropping really soon for all the silly season moves for 2023, 2024, all the major ones that happen. I also have the Xfinity Series and Truck Series lineup videos dropping really soon. And also have another updated Daytona 500 entry list video dropping once we officially get more confirmations on some of those moves. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.